Hi again. In Lesson 1, we covered a hand-drawn reference sketch and what we need to watch out for when drawing a sketch in SolidWorks. In Lesson 2C, we made our first solid. In Lesson 2D, we applied a fillet to give it a nicer shape. This time around, we're going to cut a pocket into the face of our shape block to create the surface for our lettering. If we look back at our initial hand sketch, we're going to see that we have an indented face with lettering sticking out of it and then some other lettering carved into it. To make this indented face, we'll be figuring out what shape we want to cut and then cutting straight into the surface of the part. As such, what 3D tool are we going to use? Yes, the extruded cut. Extruded is always straight in or straight out. Now that we've got our shoulders, we're going to review another important mantra of the Science Maker Lab, and that is, lazy is good. We're going to cut an indented face on our part, but we're going to do it the easy way. So first thing we have to do, of course, anytime we're going to add a new feature is we have to select the planar surface we're going to draw on. I'll put the part on a bit of an angle here so you can see that only the top surface is selected as indicated by the blue highlighting. Since we're going to do 2D work, we're going to reorient the part back to a nice normal angle when we're going to work on it. Then we're going to select the tool that says Extruded Cut, and that kicks us over into our sketch mode. We've got all these drawing tools here so we can try and match the outer shape by manually drawing a parallel contour. Or we can just be really lazy and select Offset Entities. Since the whole surface was selected when we opened that tool, it grabbed the outline of the surface as a reference line. We get a yellow preview of a line positioned to set distance from that reference. We'll set the distance to 5, which is what we wanted from our original drawing. There's a little yellow arrow. When I move my cursor to the outside of the part, the yellow arrow points outside, and we get a preview of the yellow parallel offset outside of the part. When I move inside the perimeter, the arrow flips to the inside. For some reason, the preview stays outside, but we're not going to worry about that because if we click the cursor while it's on the inside, it's going to draw the offset on that side of the original line. Okay, so now we've got a line that's set 5 millimeters from the perimeter of our part, which is the outline that we wanted for that cut-in face. Just like any other editable dimension in SolidWorks, the value we see is a driving dimension, so we can double-click on it and change it if we want, which is pretty sweet. So we've got the contour drawn for our cut-in face, and this line is continuous. I don't see any dangly entities, I don't see any opens. Looks like a valid closed contour. So we'll say yes, and I think that concludes what we need to do in 2D, right? Yep. So now, let's make this into a 3D feature. We're going to exit Sketch, which brings us back to our Extruded Cut tool. Right now, it's defaulted to 10 millimeters. If we roll the part around, we can see 10 millimeters goes most of the way through. For a second here, let's change that reference to through all. We'll see that this will cut the contour all the way through and leave us just a hoop on the outside. I'm going to say yes to that. We've got our cut extrude going all the way through. Obviously, that's not what we want because it's really hard to mount something on nothing. So we're going to right-click on Cut Extrude 1 in the feature tree, and you can see that if we select the icon in the upper left, we can edit the feature. If we pick the next icon to the right, we can edit the sketch. Since we're happy with the shape of the outline, we don't want to edit the sketch. Let's edit the feature because that controls the depth of the cut. We'll switch our reference back to blind. We're laser cutting this out of 4.7 millimeter thick wood, and we want one layer cut in so that we've got a layer in the middle that we can cut lettering out of, and then another layer at the back to hold everything together. So we'll set the depth to 4.7 millimeters blind. The preview looks pretty good, so I'm going to say yes. And we've got a face pocket cut into our part. So as usual, I'm going to name it. I'll call this Face Cut. Okay, so we've got our face cut, and if we look at it straight on and then we deselect it, it's kind of hard to see what's going on here, isn't it? To fix that problem, we're going to use a tool to contrast the color of the face to the other features so we can see it easier. In the feature tree, right-click on Face Cut and grab the Appearances tool. It's the one that looks kind of like a beach ball. And what do we want to apply this to? We want to apply it to Face Cut. We don't want to apply it to the main body or the teaching document. We just want to apply this change to Face Cut, so we'll click on that. A menu comes up and gives us choices for colors. We've got lots of preset colors here, or we can use this color map or the sliders or numbers to set a custom color. I like to use the presets so that if I want to make something else in the same color later on, it makes it really easy to find the exact same color again. There are some colors that we want to avoid if we've got more drawing to do. I'll give you a second to think about which ones. Okay, so one color we want to avoid is lighter blue. Why? Because if something is active, it highlights in light blue, which means our light blue color could mask it. We want to avoid yellow because our 3D previews are in yellow. We want to avoid orange, because orange will mask any of our snapping indications. Lastly, we want to avoid very dark colors simply because it's hard to see a black line on a black background. So I'll pick this color. It's not the prettiest color in the world, but it does contrast the gray quite nicely. And I'll say yes to lock it in. And now it's really easy to see that that face cut is a separate feature from the main part. That's a good spot to stop for Lesson 2E. Make sure you save the work you did today, and we'll see you in Lesson 2F.